Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm going to show you round 3 from Liberec. Mildly put, I don't want anyone to see this game. It took me a while to recover from this, if I'm gonna be honest, and it's very hard to talk about it and to show you this game, but okay, I have to do it nevertheless. So let me give you a brief introduction. So after 2 rounds, I had 2 out of 2. I was hoping to play a higher rated opponent finally, but unfortunately I got paired against the 1600. And he won the first 2 rounds, which means that he is better than 1600. He defeated someone stronger, much stronger in round 2. By the end of the tournament, my opponent in this game won like 150 FIDE points. So he had an excellent tournament and he is much stronger than 1600. That being said, and I don't mean it as an excuse, I would like to congratulate him because he handled this game extremely well, even though his position was very hard to play from a human perspective and completely lost according to the engine, which I was aware of. Okay, so for this game I decided to play the Bronsted-Larsen or the Tartakower Caro-Kann for the first time. This is a variation I've never played before, and I've studied it a bit, and it seems interesting, seems like a nice attacking position. So let me show you what happened. E4, c6, we get into the classical, takes, takes, and I played knight to f6. Okay, he took, of course, I took with the pawn, and he played c3, which is the main move. Now, there are 2 ways for white to play this position. One of them is to castle queenside, the other is to castle kingside. Castling kingside is way more common, and I'm not going to lose time in the video to show you the queenside play. I'll just explain the ideas behind black's attack when white castles kingside. So black starts with bishop to d6, white starts with bishop to d3, and black castles. Now, the most common move for white is queen to c2, after which black plays h5. The idea is fairly simple. You want to go h4, h3, start an attack. Eventually, you want to play rook e8, knight d7, knight f8, bishop to c7, or bishop to b8, and then queen to c7, and simply checkmate on h2. It's as simple as that. Okay, my opponent started with knight e2 first, which is common. If queen c2 is played and h5 and rook e8 is thrown in, then knight e2 is the defense, and then h5. So we basically transpose to the main line. After rook e8, castles, knight to d7, queen to c2, knight to f8, bishop e3, h5. Okay. Here my opponent played rook e1, which is okay. I played h4, and h3 has to be prevented, so h3 by white. And this is the starting position, basically. And I've seen many games in a slightly different or in this position, and the attacking ideas are very simple on first glance, but it's not easy to execute them. The 2 main ways to continue this attack are bishop c7 and bishop to b8. In some positions, bishop to c7 can be problematic because bishop f4 becomes possible. It's not possible here because of rook e2, and if bishop takes c7, then you take the rook with check first, you don't take the queen. If the queen is taken, then this should be slightly equal, almost equal. But bishop to b8 is safer, because bishop f4 is basically prevented forever, whatever white does. And if white cannot play bishop to f4, then queen c7 is coming. And on queen c7, knight to f4 would be the only defense. Let me just show you that. I'm going to show you the difference once again. If bishop to c7, and let's say a3, and queen to d6, then bishop f4, and takes, and takes, and takes. And in this position, white should be, well, plus 3.5, plus 4, so completely winning. And if, once again, instead of bishop to c7, bishop to b8 is played, and a3 is played, and queen to d6, for example, and now bishop to f4, now the same thing doesn't work because of takes, and takes, and takes. And if bishop takes bishop, you have rook takes b2. Okay, I may not have explained this correctly, but basically bishop to b8 is a safer move. And in many positions, it's more useful than bishop to c7. But both have the same idea. You want to checkmate on h2 or infiltrate on h2. And often white is going to have to be defending with king f1 and knight to g1. My god, it's so hard to show you this game. Okay, so I played bishop to b8. My opponent played bishop to f5, which is a move I haven't seen before. But in some positions, after knight f4 defends against mate, this knight comes into h5 and starts harassing the king side, mainly the pawn on f6. So I played g6 to provoke a trade. It wasn't necessary, I could have taken, but in some positions, if the knight comes to f4, knight h5 has already been prevented. And this forces a trade, because bishop g4 runs into bishop g4, a g4, queen c7. So bishop c8, and here my opponent made a mistake. He played queen to a4, and now queen c7 immediately runs into knight f4, of course, and also bishop to f4, because if queen c7, bishop f4, now I don't have knight e2 anymore, because his queen is not on c2. So instead of that I played g5, and now after queen c7 comes, there is no more defense. Here he had one more chance to stay in the game. He could have played pawn to d5. Pawn to d5 is important because the queen wants to challenge my queen via g4. So for example, queen c7, g3. I don't want to take, so queen to c8, attacking the pawn on h3, and now queen to g4. This should be better for black, but white can stay in the game, and this is not losing. It's better for black, but white can hold. Instead, my opponent played the losing move, rook a to d1, and now here is the plan. Queen c7, he has to play king f1, we infiltrate, we check, the knight comes to g1, and then we play bishop to h2, and white loses a piece or gets mated. Okay, the only defense which my opponent did find, or an attempt of a defense, fails. So queen c7, king f1, queen h2, knight g1, queen h1, d5, the key move. The reason why d5 is important here is because it allows him to play queen to g4. If he doesn't play d5, so for example here, after king to e2, I can just take, and this is game over. So he needs to be able to defend the g2 pawn. Otherwise, I'm just going to take the knight and then take on h3 and just have a winning advantage. Also, I can just take on e3. And after king takes, so for example, he does nothing again, takes, but the pawn is pinned, so king takes, and here, and you can see that this is just, I can take the knight first, and this is too much. But d5 allows for queen g4, and I'd actually anticipated that and calculated everything correctly. So d5, okay, bishop to h2, queen to g4. If I take the knight, then my queen is trapped and I lose the queen. So no point in taking, especially if I take with the queen, then he just wins my queen on the next move. If the queen was still on a4, I could take on g1 and then take on h2. So I played knight to g6. His only move here is king to e2. There is nothing else. And in this position, which I'd anticipated, which I wanted to get, which is completely winning for black, there is a simple winning move, which I saw. I saw three different moves. Okay, I took time in this position. I actually did take enough time. Or not enough, but I had enough time to take more time. I had about 30 to 40 minutes on the clock. I don't remember exactly. So, seemingly, knight to f4 wins immediately because I can dislodge the king, take on g2 with the queen, and a simply winning position. The problem is knight f3, king f3, excuse me. But after king f3, I can just repeat, and nothing's lost. I'm threatening knight e5 check, so he has to move back. Therefore, knight f4 leads to a repetition, which I don't want to allow. So we are discarding one of the three candidates. The second candidate and the winning move, which I'd calculated, I managed to miscalculate a detail. Therefore, I didn't play it. I played a move which is definitely suboptimal, still gives black a better position, but far from winning. The winning move is knight to e5. attacking the queen. Now, the best move according to the engine is knight to f3, which I thought just wasn't possible because I take, and after rook takes, I take the queen. I'm clean exchange up. This is absolutely winning. There is nothing white can do. So, after knight e5, knight f3 is not a move, so there's only one option, and that's to play queen to e4. And after queen to e4, he of course has to keep defending the g2 pawn. If the g2 pawn is not defended, then I just take it. This is what I saw. cd5, okay, but the problem is that the queen still stays on the diagonal. I should mention that if rook d5, then knight g6 and the game is immediately over, because if queen f3, knight f4 check. And once the king moves away, I play knight takes d5, if queen takes, rook d8. So, cd5. Has to take with the queen stays on the diagonal. I got this far, and I couldn't figure out whether the position was winning after rook a to d8 and queen takes b7. I just couldn't find a follow-up. The engine says -6, so obviously once you see the position like this, you can see the follow-up. It's rook b8 and that's it. The queen stays on the diagonal, either d5 or e4. Let's say d5, you just take on b2 and white resigns. That's it. That's just it. Okay, and also if queen to d5, rook a to d8, if the queen goes back to e4, this I saw correctly. I have knight to d3, and after rook d3, I take, takes, and here, and this of course again is winning, because if king f1, take on g2, take on g1, excuse me, if king to f3, then I can just get my bishop out or trade and play queen to h2. Okay, coming back to this position. I thought knight e5 was winning, but as I said, I didn't find rook b8. So I thought that what I did was stronger. I took on g1. Now this is a mistake. The position is almost completely equal. Black should have a slight edge. Okay, he of course takes, and I of course play queen to h2. And in this position he took dc6. And I blundered. Again, black is still slightly better. I just need to take bc6. And if I take bc6, for example, queen to d7, attacking the pawn, I just go rook e6, I double up and should be winning. Queen d7 is a losing mistake. The only move after bc6 to keep white close to equality is king to d2. This is very hard to find. I mean, playing king to d2 seems very risky. And the way to go for an advantage is knight e5, queen to e4, and simply knight to d3, putting pressure on b2, preparing rook to d8 or rook to b8, and getting my queen back into play. The engine says queen f3 is the best move here, allowing knight takes b2. And again, black isn't winning, but should be much better. But after dc6, I blundered. I desperately wanted to get my queen out of the way. I should mention that what I was afraid of isn't really a threat. g3 doesn't work because of rook takes and king takes and here. And once the king moves, I take on f2 and completely winning for black because of knight e5. But after dc6, I wanted to get my queen back to safety, and I got extremely irritated that I didn't convert the position already. This is a psychological problem I have when I play people who are lower rated than me. I knew I had a winning position, and now I knew I wasn't winning. It's not simple. So I played just a very bad move. I played queen c7. Now after queen c7, I'm not worse. But after my next move, I am worse. In this position, the engine says -0.7. If I play knight f4 or queen a5, knight f4 is the best move. And after king f3, simply queen to e5. And he has to defend the e4 square, so rook d4, and now simply bc6. If queen c6, rook a c8, and I should have a close to winning advantage, so the pawn cannot be taken. Alternatively, I can play queen a5, declining the trade, and if c7, queen takes a2, maybe queen b5, rook a c8. Slight advantage for black. But I played a horrendous move. I played queen takes c6. I traded off queens in a position which is definitely safer for me. My king is safer, so trading queens is absurd. Also, I'm now in a losing endgame, which I'd completely misjudged. Or to be honest, I didn't even judge it. I just thought, okay, this could be a draw, let's just take the queens off, I'll try to win the endgame. Had I thought about it, I would have realized that the position is completely lost for white after queen c6. For black, excuse me, queen c6, bc6, and I've just rook d6 and it's over. I almost resigned here. f5, I thought this was the only move. He cannot take on c6 because of f4, so just king to d2. Knight e5, threatening to win the rook and defending the pawn on c6, b3, preventing knight c4, rook a d8, offering a rook trade, making it even easier for him. And this is over. He has a passed pawn and I don't. The conversion is actually pretty simple. I should keep the pieces on the board, but I couldn't stay cool-headed and I allowed him to trade everything and just win immediately. This is how the game ended. Rook d1, knight f8, bishop c5, takes, a6, and resigns. I played on for a few more moves. I knew that this was lost. I even offered the draw at some point, which is definitely a bad thing to do in a completely losing position. I don't know why I did it, and I'm sorry I did. I didn't mean any disrespect. I knew that the position was lost. f3, excellent, and just he's going to make a passed pawn and queen. So this is how the game ended. There is no way to prevent him from creating a passed pawn. I tried c5, which is a trick, but there is no trick. King e5, and I resigned. Again, dealing with a defeat like this, firstly, I don't remember when I lost to a lower rated opponent. Haven't in 2 or 3 years at least. So from that perspective, this was tough. Losing without a fight after a mistake is definitely a psychological problem. The position was equal. I mean, I wasn't worse. I just got irritated that it was equal and I lost without a fight. And then thirdly, not being able to calculate a winning tactic with enough time on the clock, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for any of the reasons why I lost. Okay, I got this one out of the way. I really didn't want to show it, but here it is. So try to learn from my psychological mistakes. The chess mistakes in this game were, I think, less important. I got a winning position, didn't convert it, and then when it was still equal or slightly better for me, I just gave up. Once again, congratulations to my opponent for handling a tough position and finding the only possible defense, after which I blundered. So he handled this perfectly. He really did deserve the win, even though he was completely lost. Thank you for watching. I'm glad I finished this video. Stay tuned for more chess. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.